Hello everybody and welcome back to Python Basics tutorials. Now we covered functions in the previous video. We also covered some of the loops, while loops, if loops, for statements and all of that. We covered some of the Python basics such as variables, and we also covered some of the most basic programs that you can write with Python. But right now what we want to do is actually show you another thing that is in Python. Since Python is object-oriented languages, many of the code in, for example, big parts of codes are oriented in the classes. Now classes are used in order to keep some of the related things together. I'll show you the most simple version of classes so you can actually get a brief understanding of what they actually are. So let us get right into it. So let's open up our Python interpreter, and in order to actually set a class, you just use the name class and then the name of the class itself. So the name of the class, or let's type here class person. You specify the open brackets and then you specify 2 dots in that. So after that you need to specify everything in this class. So basically most of the classes will have something called self. Now it might be a little bit hard for you to understand that, but you will need, or you won't need, but it is most likely going to, you are most likely going to start the classes with the function called init. Basically what this means is it will give all of the objects that are currently corresponded to this person class. So for now on, let's just add the self object and the name object. The name basically is something, is basically a name that this person will have. And the self object is the object that we are going to refer to in the class. So let me explain it a little bit better to you. So you can understand it. Basically what this will do is if I just type here self.name equals name, this will put a self.name, a name variable in self.name variable. Now this is something that you will see a lot in the classes. This is basically just the syntax for the Python. So you will need to get used to it. If I just type here enter, you will see that right now we have the class person identified, and we have it right here in our Python interpreter. In order for you to use this class person, basically what you will need to do is actually just type here the name or any variable, so person1, or let's call it, let's call it person1, which is a variable, equals, and then we need to put the class that we want to put this person in. So class person1, we want to put him or her in the person class. And you can just type here person and press enter. You will need to specify all the arguments that we specified in our class, which in our case is only the name. So what we need to specify is the name. So let's call him John. So under the quotes you just type here John and you can press here enter. So now we have a person1 which is stored under the class person. So if you were to just type here person1, you would see, okay, this is a memory object, so let me just show you it like this. So print, in order to print the person's name, you will need to print person1, which is our John, and then dot, and then we use the object that we created in our class, which is the name. So that is the only thing that we have in that class. So print person.name, and it will give you the John. So if you just type here person, not prison, but person2, and let's add that to the class as well, and let's call her Jane. So person Jane, and print person2 dot name, we would get the name Jane. And now both of these variables are corresponded to this class that we created. So that's what they mean by keeping the related stuff together with classes. Now this is the most simple use of it. Basically in this one we only had the variable name, which we gave to our objects, or basically to our variables person1 and person2. You can have multiple things. So let's see what we can do, but let's close this interpreter since it's better to code a real program. So nano python 6.py. and we start off with the usual thing, so path to the Python. And right now let's create a class which will store a name of a certain person and which will also store an email of that person. So that would be pretty similar to what we did in the previous thing, but we also need to specify an email in our class. So let's call the class, for example, information. Let's call it like that, it doesn't even matter. And what we want to specify right there, we want to specify, or we actually want to leave it closed, so don't type here anything, just type here 2 dots after the brackets, and then press enter, and we create the simple function as before. So the fdef init function, we put the self right here, and we put the name and email, since that is what we want to actually have for every person we put in this class. What you want to do right after that, we want to do the same thing that we did before, so self.name equals name, and self.email equals email. This will store both name and email in our class, and right now all we have to do is basically just give or create a variable which will be corresponded to a person and put it in this class, while also obtaining the name and the email for that person. So let's do that right here. So let's call him Jack, or let's call him, alright, we can call him Jack equals, and then we want to put him in a class. We put that with just specifying the name of our class, which is information, which is probably not that good of a name for this class, but it doesn't matter currently. And we open brackets right here, and what we want to do is just specify these two things. So the first thing would be name, as we specified firstly, and the second thing would be email. So right now we open quotes. First of all, we specify Jack as a name, we put comma right here, and then we specify the email. So let's say it's jack@gmail.com. And that would be about it for the specification of the Jack for this class. So all we have to do right now is, if we want to print the information for Jack, you can just type here print jack.name and print jack.email. So that's how you can use this. Basically it is really simple. Though everyone seems to understand this the hardest, I did too, but once you actually get used to this, this won't really present that much of a problem to you. Classes can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but they're not that hard to learn. So you just save this, so Ctrl-O to save, enter, and then Ctrl-X to exit. And right now let's chmod our Python 6 and run it. 6, whoops. And here we can see that when it prints out the name and email, we get the Jack and jack@gmail.com. So that would be everything for classes. Now you can also stack classes one under another, so class in a class in a class in a class, but that is the more advanced section. Basically we won't be doing that right now, and we also don't need it for our coding of backdoor, so there is really no point in doing that. You can also use certain parts of the class in a print statement. So let me just show you so you can see. So you can just type here print the user's name is, and then you just type here the closed quotes and then plus and then jack.name. So you can do it like that, it doesn't really matter. So the plus will just add the string of this to this string right here that is specified. So this will specify the user's name is Jack. You can do the same here as well. So the user's email is, and then plus this string. So we save this once again, and if we run it, you will see the user's name is Jack and the user's email is jack@gmail.com. So that is probably something else you didn't know, which is that you can stack two strings together. So this is one string, which is just the name, which in our case is Jack, and this is the second string. So it will just add this string to the end of this one, and it will print out the string as a single string. So that's something useful to know. So that would be about it for this tutorial, and in the next one I will show you how you can actually import libraries from the Python and also import your own libraries, which is also useful and which is something that we will do in order to create our programs. Basically, you would be having to type all of the things from the very beginning if you don't include any libraries, but luckily we have some of the libraries that other people coded for us that we can use in our own programs with just a little bit of effort. So that would be about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!